Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of the Friendship Rewind, where I look back at every episode of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. I am your host, Alex Inman, and on today's episode, we will be looking back at the introduction of one of the most beloved characters on the show. This episode is going up on November 14th, which means tomorrow is November 15th, my birthday, and I'm really glad I get to look back on such a fun character introduction in this episode. And we begin the episode titled Boast Busters with Twilight and Spike testing out some new magic. Twilight makes a mustache appear on Spike's face, which brings her list of tricks up to 25. Though, to be frank, they're more illusions. And it's so quaint to see the small number of spells that Twilight knows way back when, in comparison to just the sheer number of things that she's able to do in the future just without even thinking about it. So that was a quick little cold open because after the break, Twilight and Spike are walking around town. And in the grand tradition of character introductions being someone running into another character, Spike gets run into by two small unicorns.
Yay, Ray! Coming through!
Snips! Snails! What's going on?
Well, haven't you heard? There is a new unicorn in town!
Yeah! They say that she's got more magical powers than any other unicorn ever!
And here we have Snips and Snails, two more male characters, voiced by Richard Ian Cox and Lee Tokar respectively. Lee Tokar you heard earlier in the show as the voice of the sea serpent in the first episode, the second half of the first episode. Richard Ian Cox, meanwhile, is a pretty prolific voice actor. He voiced Goku in the ocean dub of Dragon Ball Z Kai, and most famously is the voice of Inuyasha from the various Inuyasha dubs. Anyway, Snips and Snails say that there's a hot new unicorn in town who has more magical powers than anyone. So they head to town square where that unicorn reveals herself.
Come all, come and witness the amazing magic of the great and powerful Trixie!
And the amazing woman rolling those R's like crazy is Kathleen Barr, whose voice acting career stretches all the way back to 1979. She is best known as the voice of Wheezy in Dragon Tales, as well as Kevin and Marie Kanker in Ed, Edd n Eddy. And she is a whole lot of fun voicing Trixie. She just goes all out, and I love it.
Well. It seems we have some naysayers in the audience. Who is so ignorant as to challenge the magical ability of the great and powerful Trixie?
This scene also shows off some fireworks effects, which will be very commonplace as the show goes on. Pretty much anytime there needs to be some kind of fireworks, it's always these exact same effects. Anyway, Rarity, Applejack, and Rainbow Dash talk about how much Trixie is boasting, and make pointed comments about how they don't like unicorns showing off, which immediately makes Twilight self-conscious about her own abilities. Trixie then talks about how she was able to vanquish the Ursa Major, which is a bear-like creature that was attacking a town. Snips and Snails are immediately convinced and become Trixie's hype men out of nowhere.
That settles it!
Trixie truly is the most talented, most magical, most awesome unicorn in Ponyville!
No! In all of Equestria!
How do you know? You didn't see it? And besides, Twilight...
Trixie then lays down the gauntlet on the entire town, saying that anything they could do, she can do better. Or else she considers herself the, quote, greatest equine who ever lived, which is just laughable considering we still have Princess Celestia, who is an actual godlike being who can raise and lower the sun. Twilight is still very self-conscious and doesn't want to risk her friends hating her, so she stands back while her friends take on Trixie. And in this sequence of Applejack, Rainbow Dash, and Rarity taking on Trixie individually, Trixie never actually competes against them on their level. She just incapacitates each of them in some way, and she says that proves that she's better. Applejack does some tricks with a rope, and Trixie uses a rope to hogtie Applejack. Rainbow Dash does some awesome flying tricks, and uses rain to create a really cool rainbow effect around her. And then Trixie just uses the rainbow to make Rainbow Dash dizzy. And finally, she just makes Rarity's hair look bad, and that makes Rarity run off in embarrassment. And I once again have to highlight an amazing Tabitha St. Germain reading as Rarity.
Quick! I need a mirror! Get me a mirror! What did she do to my hair? I know she did something terrible to my hair!
And so with those three ponies defeated, I'm doing air quotes here, Trixie singles out Twilight, who is still very, very, very self-conscious, and so she turns tail and runs off, leaving Trixie to declare victory, I guess, and the music makes it seem like this is like the total end of the world. Sometime later, Snips and Snails bring Trixie a smoothie because they're just totally sucking up to her now. And then they run into Spike, who provides an important counter to Trixie's Ursa Major claim.
Oh, really? Were you guys actually there?
Well, no, but
But nothing! Unless an Ursa Major comes waltzing up the street for Trixie to vanquish, I am not gonna believe a word she says. And neither should you!
Unfortunately, all this talk about not believing someone on their first impression just gives Snips and Snails the idea to go get an Ursa Major. They go out into the Everfree Forest, go into a dark cave, and then I do love the effect of Snips trying to get his horn to light up, to light the cave.
how are we gonna find an Ursa Major when I can't even see my own hoof in front of my face?
Hold on.
Oh, that's better.
And then surprise, surprise, behind them the creature has awakened. And we see that the huge blue bear-like creature is actually transparent with a Starfield-type design inside of it, probably because the name of the creature is based on the name of the constellation Ursa Major. Snips and Snails naturally run the heck out of there, run past Spike, who goes to get Twilight, and Snips and Snails go to Trixie. Once awakened in her traveling wagon, and upon seeing the creature approaching, Trixie also gets the heck out of there and runs further into the town. She makes a couple very weak attempts to subdue the beast, and right when Twilight shows up, she finally confesses that she never actually defeated an Ursa Major, which comes at a shock to Snips and Snails.
No one can vanquish an Ursa Major. I just made the whole story up to make me look better.
And then Twilight, with impending doom right in front of her, steps up and takes care of business. First, she uses her magic to create a wind, which causes cattail plants to create a soothing song to soothe the beast. Concentrating even further, she levitates the water tower and dumps it all out, and then takes it through the barn where it somehow gets a whole bunch of milk inside it from all the cows. Don't want to know how that works. And then finally, she levitates the entire beast and brings the water tower full of milk over to it and gives it to the beast like it's a bottle. And then she levitates the beast all the way back to the Everfree Forest and into the cave. And while she was doing all of that, Twilight was straining herself really hard, even digging into the dirt road. It was a real big strain on her, which again is really interesting to see how far she's come in 10 years. And so, with the day saved thanks to Twilight, she immediately starts thinking that everyone will hate her because of her magic tricks. But her friends immediately tell her that comparing herself to Trixie is just not the same.
Magic's got nothing to do with it. Trixie's just a loudmouth.
Most unpleasant. All hat and no cattle. Your magic is a part of who you are, Sugar Cube, and we like who you are. We're proud to have such a powerful, talented unicorn as our friend.
Twilight is very relieved from hearing all of this. and then revealed that she was researching the creature during all the time she was avoiding Trixie, and found out that the beast was actually an Ursa Minor, a baby. And then we, the audience, get the reveal of the Ursa Minor being coddled by a much larger purple beast that's like 5 times the size of the Ursa Minor. Trixie then takes the opportunity to take her bow and exit the stage.
You may have vanquished an Ursa Minor, but you will never have the amazing, show-stopping ability of the great and powerful Trixie!
She sets off a smoke bomb and then runs away into the night. Twilight writes her letter to Princess Celestia about not being ashamed to show who you are, and the episode ends. Looking back on this episode now, it's just so much fun to have Trixie because she is so boisterous, and she actually shows up much more later on in the show. It's also fun to see just how less powerful Twilight is in these early years, and that she has to strain herself to do things that later on will just be like second nature. And I can't help but notice these really foundational social lessons that the show is teaching the kids in these first few episodes. It kind of shows where Lauren Faust's head was as she was plotting out the first season of her new show. So that's what I thought of the episode, and I of course would love to hear what you think about the episode. You can tweet at me at InmanAlex, INMANALEX. You can comment if you're on a platform that has comments. You can leave a review if you're on a platform that takes reviews. You can listen to the Friendship Rewind on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Anchor, pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts. And next week we go on an adventure into the mountains, so look forward to that. Thank you again so much for listening, and I'll be back next week for another episode of the Friendship Rewind. Memento Mori.